forcing our children to hug or kiss somebody that they don't know or they clearly don't want to.
Absolutely.
And if I add that into the experience of some of the predators, one of the better example that I've, done work on over the years, if parents had an insight to that and how horrifying that is for a child, I think they would all, and you don't have to stop the child, you just have to let them do their thing.
It's consent, right?
It is
the child
absolutely
either says
consent
yes
101.
or no. Yeah.
But the child might have a full body no, and we are now forcing them to change. And as a result of that, we're taking them away from being should Farkers.
Yeah.
And we're moving them away from their true essence and their trusting that true feeling in their heart. And we're basically programming them. And so they're going to get out of that 7 years where they're impressionable and work through the next 5, 10, get into probably their 20s and 30s and suddenly go, why do I keep getting myself into these situations?
Hello, Quanta folks, and welcome to another episode of Faark the Shoulds podcast. I am QuantiMama Jodi.
And I'm QuantiPapa McGill. Hello, Jodi.
You got in first there, babe.
I did.
This is the evolution of podcasting and conversations.
This is me getting a word in.
Yeah, well, quite possibly you may actually graduate to doing the intro.
Ooh.
Ooh, big scary task. Okay, so today we are literally not thinking too hard about the topic, and we are talking about farking the shoulds today.
We're going to have a revisit. And I mean, everything in life you should revisit along the way and check in and see how you're going. And I mean, what did we start 4 years ago?
This is year 4, yep.
Yeah, and so we've been farking the shoulds and been trying to make that a part of our everyday lives and our existence in that time. And it's probably good to see how we've gone.
There's a couple of things. I really love reflection, self-reflection. I think, firstly, it helps us remember that we're not stuck where we are. And so, and we've talked about this in previous episodes. I think the one we talked about being a different person, you're a different set of cells in your body every 7 years maximum, right? So you can only be a remembering of your old self, like your body is new cells in that, right? So that's kind of cool. But the benefit of having some reflection is that I think I think your mind works a little bit better than mine in this sense, but I tend to I'm like a goldfish, and I kind of literally forget where we've come from, and you tend to chart that a little bit more, and I think that probably gives you a different sort of reverence for our journey, shall I say. I want to use my 2 fingers for talking marks there because I hate the word journey. It's just so cliched these days, but it is a journey. It's a journey, and especially when you're a should farker, right? So when we first had that conversation, it was the inspo for the podcast title, and can I just say I freaking love it. You know how sometimes it's just like a divine thought and you go, okay, let's just be funny and call it Faark the Shoulds. But I actually feel so strongly about farking the shoulds now. It's a whole framework for life, and it's so integrated into our family life that we don't think too much about it anymore, do we?
No, it's become part of our part of the way that we can communicate with one another. And we can actually stop and I can say to you, or I can say to one of the kids, is that a should? And to actually have them just pause for that period of time, or yourself or me, and reevaluate what you're actually doing and go, no, it's not. So then you commit into the pathway you're going to, or yeah, it is. Why am I doing this? This is against the grain. And it's that chance to evaluate or reevaluate all the little decisions you make as well as the big ones.
I think also it sorts the wheat from the chaff to do with decisions that are made based on, say, programming or living small, which is very should-like, and also decisions that are made on like a false fear paradigm. And I'm thinking about, you know, our beautiful, beautiful first child, who presently is, you know, however many feet in the air, 30,000 feet in the air, flying
And
from
a lot of kilometres away.
a lot of kilometres away. He's up whizzing along in the air, heading to Canada, and he's a freshly minted adult, but still very much happy to receive thoughts about how to do life and how to make decisions from us, which
He's still impressionable and he's still open to guidance from us, which is beautiful.
it's a beautiful thing. But I feel like that the richness of that relationship is actually, it points to the fact that we have kind of grabbed this framework of farking the shoulds for the last few years, and we have lived that by example. I don't think there's much we do that is a should, to be honest. I can't think of much that happens at all. Like, if we do stuff, we accept radical self-responsibility for that decision. Like, it's actually interwoven in that. And because it's so common in our family, I was going to say normal, it's common in our family to approach life or have conversations in that manner, it has meant there's a richness that's developed with us and the kids and how we parent them.
Well, there's a richness there, and there's a freedom within the conversation where we are still the parents and we are still, you know, having the final say in a lot of cases, but we are open to discussion. We're open to the kids' ideas, what they're wanting, and then they have become very good at expressing their point of view, what they want, those sorts of things. And we can question them as to what their motives are without being offensive and, you know, without shutting them down. We can sort of say, you know, and you brought up beautiful QK1 who was vacillating whether he was going to go overseas. Yeah. Absolutely wanted to, didn't want to, not sure, couldn't make up his mind. And then he had some, some pushback through part of the family, and at no stage did we stop and say to him, no, you are not going. Or we don't think it's best for you to go. We put it back onto him and we literally said to him, is this a should? Is it in your highest good to go? You need to answer that question and we will support your decision. Now, he didn't just come back and go, yes, I'm going. He went away and he thought about it. He came out and he asked questions. He queried bits and pieces. He asked for different ideas. And so a huge dialogue opened up. And we had, and it's funny because when you go back to that original podcast we did that from a point where we just stepped out of being in overwhelm. Yeah,
that was the should we were farking was one that was being propelled by this need to do the right thing, shall we call it. And we were, I remember I was particularly just in absolute overwhelm, absolute fight, flight, fright, you know, adrenal response. And it was an epiphany to even think that we could fark a should. And once you did it, you're like, that was a lot easier than I thought. Yeah. And so what I'm saying is we've actually become, I think, quite accomplished at should farking. We're should farker graduates. It's actually taken as just a foundational framework for how we live. But I think what you were saying about Quanta Kid 1 and him vacillating around his decisions, even then he was, I thought, making some quite economising decisions about how he would travel or for how long he would go. And, you know, part of that conversation was, I don't think we need to even really tease it out, but we literally said, you're going a long way to not do very much. Like, perhaps, you know, you could feel into what that would be like to stay longer and actually go travelling and get yourself into the unknown, to quote Elsa. You know, because that's actually a place where I think the shoulds keep us in this place of comfort, you know, and I think that's where we've really noticed when we do shoulds, we stay in a place of comfort and certainty, and there's not a lot of exciting things that happen there. In fact, that's where the banal life
You're just going
in.
through the motions.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, I'm sure it's quite pleasant, and there are plenty of people that are comfortable with that. And to be honest, if you want to do the shoulds, like, please, should to your heart's content, but be honest with yourself that you are doing shoulds, and there is another option out there. And I think that's the thing is, what I want to say is being like a what did I say? We were like doing our masters in shoulding now, weren't we? So we were like so far down the track. You can call me Dr. Should Farker when we graduate from this one. I don't know what that's going to be, but there is so much ease around not doing shoulds anymore. Like literally part of all of the shoulds are things like, I don't apologise unless it really is an apology. I don't say sorry just for the sake of sorry, because I know that takes something away from me and changes the dynamic of the relationship of whoever I'm engaging with, right? So I don't speak inauthentically. When I say I'm going to do something, I generally do it. And if I don't, then I hate myself quietly in the corner until I do it, right? But there's a whole lot of underpinning elements to being a good human that I think Farking the Shoulds really supports. You tend to be more honest, don't you? And you tend to be more radically responsible.
You do. And in terms of, as you say, like talking about, graduating or moving through, or in our case, I would look at it and just go, I'm far more comfortable with it, is that you tend to avoid or see situations coming that are not ones that you wish to be involved in. You know that they're not for your highest good. You know that you're just going to be spending a lot of your energy for very little, self-reward or reward for other people, depending on, and that's okay too. So I think we've become far more adept at looking at something that comes in, and you almost make that assessment as it's going on, and you then go, no, it's not for me. So you move past that so much faster. You don't get hung up on something.
That's all very well, but how do you make that assessment? I know how I make it. I'm curious how you intellectualise that.
Well, it depends where it comes from. But if it's if it's someone talking to me, or if something's happened and I need to respond to some degree, I've got to look at that, and I often go, if it's an instant yes, then I'm off and I'm doing it. If I have hesitation or trepidation, then I might hear out or tease out the problem a little bit and really, put a good amount of thought into that. And then from that, I look at it critically and I make that assessment and I go, well, no, or you know what, yes. And if I need more, then I'll come and I'll talk to somebody else, which is generally you. Or
how do you register? I want to strip it down even more, because that's a whole lot of talky talk. How do you register your yes? I'm not trying to put you over the coals here. I'm trying to get you to...
I would say you feel it.
Right.
It is just an innate feeling of you feel your body going, yeah. Yep.
I mean, I don't want to entice an answer out of you, but that literally is the answer I was after.
It's like you knew.
It's a bit like I knew.
But it is, because when we stop trusting our instincts, when we move so far away from listening to our bodies, listening to our internal feelings, listening to all the barometers, whatever you want to call it, whatever you have that works for you, your early warning system, whatever it may be, when we move away from that and we start forcing ourselves to do things because that's what we think should be happening, every time we do that, we move further and further away from our true self. And we make it harder and harder to come back to that point where we make a decision that's based in our heart space, based in the benefit for ourselves, that we take radical self-responsibility for, and we follow through that decision and we commit to it.
Yes, I agree with you. A few things occurred to me as you were saying that. So firstly, I agree. I feel it in my body, and I think that if you beautiful listeners are sitting there going, what the fuck does that mean? It's about noticing, and you may want to give yourself this experience, or you may want to just think back to a time when you've had it, where you had that yes, where you could actually feel, you would like the inner child suddenly started jumping up and down and actually operating your body, and then suddenly you were jumping up and down and you were very excited. That's the yes feeling. And
what's the ice cream effect?
It is. Is it the ice cream effect?
It is.
Or the lolly shop?
Well, ice cream or the lolly shop. It's like, you know what?
Yeah.
That's I want that.
Yeah.
I'm keen to do that. But then at the same time, what we're talking about is when you've just eaten a massive meal, or you're full, or you're not feeling that well, and you go, oh, I can have ice cream. Oh.
Yeah.
Is it going to be in your highest good at that point in time?
Yeah, so it's about recognising. I just think some people won't even have a framework for what the yes feeling feels like. So it's sometimes helpful just to have that as a place to start. And then I tend to say, if you can get that yes feeling, then anything less than a yes is a no. And then you've got a guidance, right? So it's about paying attention to this. As you pay attention to it, it becomes more second nature. Just like when we all started riding a bike, or we started driving a car, or whatever it might be. Walking.
As simple as something as walking.
Correct. Walking. We don't even think twice about it. So noticing that, and then what happens is, as you become more comfortable and practiced at noticing your body reaction, but then taking action to not override that body reaction and honouring it, that changes things again. And I feel that when we ignore the body response, we naturally create a dimmer switch in our body for that feedback, right? Because the body's really efficient. It goes, oh, well, you're not paying attention to these signals that I'm sending out to you, so I will basically turn down that feedback system so that it doesn't bother you as much. You're going to do your thing anyway. And this is this whole conversation about how we can go unconscious with our programs and play out, the shit that our parents didn't mean to, but passed on to us when we were in that very unconscious state of in utero and the first 7 years of life, just being a sponge. And so I think that as you play around with these things, it can bring up a lot. It can feel a lot to say no to stuff. It can feel a lot to not just play nice because you're meant to do it. And it's not about being obstructive, but it certainly is about just flexing that muscle a little bit more.
And I think that the more that we are people pleasers, or the more that we're doing the shoulds, then the further away, as you said, that you'd say the dimming switch turns down. I'd say the further we move away from our own body's barometer and our own ability to trust in ourselves and our systems and put ourselves first. And I've spoken about that before with you and with other people, and particularly men, that you always need to be, and anyone, you need to put yourself first. Because again, if you're not putting yourself first, you can never be 100%. And if you're going to give 100% of yourself to someone else, you can't do that if you're only at 90.
Yeah.
So you have a responsibility to look after yourself first. And then from there, work out what is going to keep nourishing you, but allow you to spread your seeds, spread your love, spread your gold light, whatever it is.
Yeah. I want to tell you that seed sounds dirty, just by the way, but gold light's good. Thank you.
We'll go with gold light then in that case. I see what I have to put up with. But if you're going to spread your gold light, you might as well shine from 100%.
Why not? Why not?
Well, because
what
you're
a lovely
not.
Suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I get that. So it's about, I guess, just shining a light, literally, without trying to use the word light like we're playing a drinking game and hoping to get completely shit-faced by the 20-minute mark. It's about using that light to help you make clearer decisions, because the other thing that's really interesting to experience, and I think that because we're recovering shoulders, right? So we are, moving into the alumni of should farking, but being former shoulders, we have that benefit of contrast, of noticing what that was like and what the benefits are as you remove the dimmer switch on the feedback on the body, and how as you start honouring what your real yeses and nos are, not the bullshit that you've been passed on and told that you ought to do, you know, stay quiet, keep your opinions to yourself, put on a nice dress and some lipstick, whatever it might be. And then obviously I've got my things as well.
Of course.
That was a gag, clearly.
I know.
Yeah, I know. You just agreed too easily. As you honour that, what happens is I think you then become privy to more of your innate intelligence. So again, it works in that way of, oh, okay, you're taking action on your yeses and nos that are coming up in your body, which is your beautiful community of trillions of cells working in harmony to always create the best outcome for you. And as you honour those more, then what happens is you get more of that information and shit starts working out. And we start circling back to one of my favourite terms from one of my favourite guests who is going to be on the podcast again very soon, which is super exciting. But the beautiful Riona gifted this one to me, which is pronoia, which is the opposite of paranoia. And it's the belief that the universe is always assembling to support me, you. But I think you can extend that pronoic kind of mentality to go, I'm always looking to support myself. So I always have my best interests at heart. And as you anchor in that belief system, like everything gets really lovely in life. I mean, there's always contrast, but there will be generally some kind of silver lining to all clouds and weather formations in your life, right? It's just about allowing some spaciousness for that to reveal itself.
And it's also then about, as we've spoken about before, how you choose to view that experience at that point in time.
Totally.
A different question for you though. When was just think, obviously we spoke about the fact that this podcast was born out of overwhelm. And I have no doubt I can think of times for myself and for you where we have been in overwhelm since then. What has changed with the way you deal with being in overwhelm?
Well, it's funny you say that because I think a more interesting question, if you were listening to this conversation, would be, why are you still having overwhelm?
Maybe we're not quite the master's degree yet, darling.
Well, I mean, my ego says I am, but... so which question do I want to answer? I'll tell you what, because I am always a fan of being brutally honest and definitely throwing myself under the bus. The other day, I did 6 hours in the library just slaving away over a computer, and the persistent self-talk was, I am a loser, I am not nailing it. Like, it was just so comprehensive. No one else had a seat at this table for this conversation. It was literally just this self-abuse talk. It was really interesting. And the kids were occasionally calling me because I was at the library, and I'd just hang up on them because I had enough of even their conversations. I literally had no Farks left in my Fark jar for anything other than putting all that energy into my negative self-talk. And then I rang you at probably about the 5 hours and 59 minute mark. So I'd done a good while there. So it was a fair effort of...
So you punished yourself good and proper.
Yeah, a lot of self-flagellation going on.
Yeah.
And I hadn't done it for a while. So we call it like an emotional bender, right? I went on an emotional bender, and you just said this thing, and this is why it's important to have these reflective conversations, because you said something
Am I in
that...
trouble?
No, I'm pretty sure that if you went to work and said to the fellas, hey, listen, this is what I said to the wife when she was losing her shit the other day on the phone to me, they would just all take a step back because they wouldn't quite know what to do with it. But you literally, your words were, sounds like it's coming up for purification. And I'm like, yep, that's exactly what it is. In that moment, it disconnected the suffocating hold that it was having over me of being the totality of my life in that moment, that was the only voice that was cutting through. And then your comment of sounds like it's coming up for purification, it just cut that stranglehold that was happening for those words. And it gave me the space I needed for a new perspective, which we've talked about before, changing your camera lens. And in that moment, it lost its charge. And I had that thought of going, you know, is this really how I want to keep talking to myself? I didn't quite recover it, but it was just enough to shunt it out of the driver's seat of what was going on for me. And it returned me back to that more pranoic place of, okay, this is a day where it feels like not a lot is achieved, but it's probably a perceptive thing. It's not necessarily reality. And it was just so useful. And I'm just like, if you had have said just any other kind of soothing or dismissive statement, would it have shunted me out of that? You know, did we have that conversation at the perfect time so it could stop its effect on me? I could stop giving it oxygen is how I would describe it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I do remember that conversation, and I just remember hearing what you were saying and me just going, that's not you. It was just 101, not you. And I don't want to, I could have, you know, listed off a dozen things that I absolutely adore about you at that point in time, but they wouldn't have been heard. And I needed to choose language that obviously I knew would resonate with you. And I don't really remember thinking about what I said. I just remember saying that, and the sudden silence on the phone, me thinking, maybe that was the wrong one. And then the difference in you on the phone, it was like I was suddenly talking to a different person. And that's the advantage of, you know, really and truly knowing someone. And it's funny you brought that one up, but it's exactly what it is. I mean, at various points in time, and I know I can't think of an exact one recently, but I know where I've been getting to the point where I'm fed up and I've had enough and I'm tired and I'm, you know, getting grumpy and all those sorts of wonderful things. And you can just pick it from a mile away and you basically just give it straight to me and go, a bit tired and grumpy, are we? And that whole thing of myself being reflected back, which is all I was trying to do, and that was just to get you to look at it from a different point of view and look in your reflection and go, you know what, that negative self-talk isn't me. Tired and grumpy, yeah, I'm looking in the mirror going, yep, that's not who I want to be. So I'm going to make a choice right at this point in time. And I'm going to change.
I do think you're free to feel how you need to feel, though, because I think the greatest cause of disease is trapped emotions and stress that has not been able to move through to its natural grounding point, wherever that is. And I certainly know that, you know, since we started Farking the Shoulds, one of the biggest changes is how I support the kids when they're expressing their emotion. You know, there's probably way more swearing in our household than most households. And I know that's been something that you have had to find a place of comfort there, because your view is not always supported, which is that children should not swear. Children should not swear. And I very much... probably because I get to spend most of the time with them, so I'm in that privileged place of seeing all the good bits as well as the bits where, you know...
They unravel. Yep.
They unravel. That the swearing is actually just another example of them moving what is overwhelm for them.
Yep.
In that moment. And I don't take away from those experiences of overwhelm. I want them to have the full experience. And, you know, when they come back and they say sorry, I say, look, you actually don't need to apologise. You just need to move through your emotions. And I would rather that you don't have, energetic and emotional rubbish bins scattered throughout your body because you swallowed it down rather than let it out. Why are you smiling a little bit?
I'm just reflecting on my programming, obviously, in relation to the swearing is quite strong. But what I've managed to do over the last while, I don't react as much as I used to, but when those words are used at a person or in a derogatory way, they will always get a strong reaction from me, purely and simply because, well, I just see that as not acceptable. You can't talk to a person like that. But if they're expressing their frustration and their emotion and they're using those words to move that, I have been genuinely starting to accept that as going, you know what, it's just a word in that situation. It doesn't have that tone or that intonation. It doesn't have that long-lasting almost vitriolic nature that comes with it. And our youngest is probably the most shining example of that, where he'll just rip it out and he's, you know, quite happy 2 or 3 minutes later. Whereas QK3 will bottle it up, and then he will give us he will come out with and can be quite strong in the way that he says it, and that elicits a response from me. What I've found though, particularly with him, is that if I wait for 5-10 minutes or half an hour and then go and have a conversation with him about it, rather than reacting out of my initial state, he understands, why I'm having that conversation, and I have a far better relationship with him, and I can bring far more to his attention and he can bring far more to mine.
I think, so I want to make a distinction, because I actually think how you feel, say about the swearing, right? Like, I have empathy for you too, because you're out of the household, so you don't hear the first round of fucks and bitches and whatever other words they decide to, stretch the parenting-child relationship with. And I'm not saying the kids call me that at all. I wouldn't put up with that. But when they are in overwhelm, there's usually, you can see what's happened. So I don't take away from the fact that that's challenging for you to hold space for. I think you're getting better at not reacting, because you're now considering what is the unmet need of that child that is now lashing out, and what's been the dynamic that hasn't been addressed. And I think it's also really fine to have boundaries in place, because I think the distinction is you don't let your family have a free-for-all and just do whatever the fuck you want based on the fact that, my body says yes, so, I just want to do this, that and the other. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's about noticing when something is a no that you override. And parents, to be honest, are absolute Monties for doing this with their children.
Well, the one with parents that always comes back to me and is stuck with me forever, and given the work and the nature of the work that I've done over the years, is when we're forcing our children to hug or kiss somebody that they don't know or they clearly don't want to.
Absolutely.
And if I add that into the experience of some of the predators, for one of a better example that I've done work on over the years, if parents had an insight to that and how horrifying that is for a child, I think they would all, and you don't have to stop the child, you just have to let them do their thing.
It's consent, right?
It is.
The child either says yes or no. Yeah.
But the child might have a full body no, and we are now forcing them to change, and as a result of that, we're taking them away from being should Farkers, and we're moving them away from their true essence and their trusting that true feeling in their heart, and we're basically programming them. And so they're going to get out of that 7 years where they're impressionable and work through the next 5, 10, get into probably their 20s and 30s, and suddenly go, why do I keep getting myself into these situations? Why do I keep allowing these things? Why do these things seem to happen to me?
Yeah, well, then we feed into the drama triangle and they become victims, and why does it always happen to me?
And so the question is, my point is that if we were looking at it from the point of view of getting our children to be able to make decisions, and our friends and everybody around us to make decisions from their heart that are in alignment for them, and that are for their highest good, and that they are, and they're farking the shoulds. Yeah. How different is their interaction with life going to be?
I actually would counter an argument that if you are a practice should farker, you can never be a victim. You just don't, because your decision framework is around what you think is a yes and a no for you. And when you do that and you live in that way where you don't just do stuff because that's what you're meant to do or you've been entrained to do or gaslit into doing, then you don't end up a victim because you have really great and connected conversations with self about what's right for you and what's right for your community. I always think there's a balance between serving self and serving community. Sometimes I do shit I don't want to do, but I own it. Like, I'm not a victim of that choice. When I'm of service to others, I'm of service to my community, and it actually then has the knock-on effect that does fill me with a yes, which is I love being of service. So, not to all things, don't get any ideas for after this podcast, by the way. But I do love that. And I think it's actually a really healthy, it's not a balance, it's a seesaw, right? So when you're serving the community, you're not serving yourself necessarily. But when you do serve yourself, you become a better community member. So they are mutually beneficial in terms of how they scratch one another's back.
What you brought up in there that almost comes right back to the heart of everything we've spoken about is the word choice and the power of choice. You know, you have a choice. You can fark the shoulds, you can do the shoulds. You can choose to fark some of them, you can choose to not. And that is your power. There's always choice. Even if the outcome on the other side is something that you don't want, you can still make that choice. You can give up a career. You can change your entire lifestyle. Or you can choose to follow along. And that's where it's at for me.
Yeah.
I have that power of choice.
Yeah, and you own that decision, which is awesome. So again, you cannot be a victim in that situation. You can only be your own hero in that situation. You can only empower yourself through that. And to be honest, like sometimes when I do contrast, like have a day of beating myself over the head emotionally, I appreciate the difference because I actually don't want to live this life just all sunshine and lollipops. That's not interesting to me. Like, it's about the light and shade. It's the texture. It's actually having a reference point for what yuck feels like. So I can always check in on, okay, that's a yuck thing. Good to know. Let's find a yes thing by comparison. So there's so much richness in it. But what I will say, categorically, when you live this life in front of your children, and you create an opportunity for them to do that, and it might take a little while because particularly say if they're in the school system and you've been parenting them the way your parents parented you and, you know, all its glory, there's some unwinding and unravelling and re-establishing of trust and bringing up what was dimmed, you know, so bringing up that dimmer switch that was turned down on the biofeedback of the body and what is a yes and what's a no. But as you do that, I guarantee, absolutely guarantee, you will better your relationship with your children. And more than that, you will put yourself in a situation where you get to witness them being comfortable in their own skin and
grow.
I think that is the only thing we need to do as parents, essentially, is to help our kids know themselves, know their own voice, know that they're invested in their own wellness, whether that's through nutrition, exercise, emotional intelligence, actual scholastic aptitude, vocational, you know, whatever, right? The whole kaleidoscope of what it is to be human. Interpersonal connections, all of it, right? When you have children that have a interest and a curiosity and a yearning to keep flexing in all of those places, then that's your job done. And it's a job done well.
I like that.
Do you?
I do. I do. I finally understand where we're going.
Oh, good. All right. Well, on that note, good catching up, babe.
Always good to chat to you, darling.
Pleasure. Quanta folks, thanks for just, you know, having your cup of tea while McGill and I have a chat here. We look forward to connecting with you again very soon. And if you're curious, go find episode 1 if you're now finding us and you're having this, what is this, it's like a remix, isn't it?
It is a little bit, yeah. Well, to look back.
Yeah,
And
I love a remix.
Yeah. You hear how much we've
The kids were
changed.
playing some Akadaka version that was a dance thing, and I'm not sure about that remix, but I reckon this remix is okay.
See how it goes.
Quantifolk, be well. Until next time.
Bye.
Beautiful Quantifolks. You know, at QuantiMama, we have a mandate that we feel so passionate about. We want and we are raising the community's vibration and frequency and consciousness through parenting and birth experiences. Such incredible, transformational experiences that will shape you as a person and are the very fabric of life. You want to find out how to high vibe your experience even more? Then QuantiMama is your place. Head there for the High Vibe Birth course, ultimate preparation for birthing. Head there if you want to re-engage your child in the love of learning for the Take the Leap course, which is a deschooling course for parents. There's beautiful mind movies, and obviously this podcast is there, and we are here to support you. So head there for all the juice.